In relation to the dispensationalist and law, we find that the dispensationalist teaches that we're in this parenthesis, that the prophetic clock stopped when the Jews rejected Jesus as the Messiah. So anything related to the Old Testament regarding law doesn't apply in the church age. It can only apply in the millennium. So we're left in this parenthesis, this period in between, with only the New Testament as law. The problem with that is that the New Testament is based upon the Old Testament regarding law. I remember debating a dispensationalist, and it was actually David Chilton who raised the question about bestiality and asked the question of a dispensationalist author, very, very famous dispensationalist author, what would you say to a pastor who was engaged in bestiality? And he actually said that since the New Testament didn't prohibit it, there was nothing morally wrong with it. Well, the other dispensationalist authors and pastors who were at this particular meeting backed away from that position and said that it would be covered under the New Testament prohibition against fornication. And here was the question I asked: how does one define fornication in the New Testament? And they smiled and said, well, we get the definition for fornication from the Old Testament. So they even admitted, when Jesus uses the phrase fornication, it was based upon an Old Testament conglomerate of laws that described what fornication was. Now, 1 Timothy chapter 1 is very clear about the application of the law, and those are Old Testament laws. Paul talks about paying workers and paying the pastor, and he takes an obscure law related to animals, don't muzzle the ox while he's treading out the corn, and he applies it in human relationships and employer-employee relationships. So if you don't have the Old Testament to determine how these New Testament laws are to be applied, then you don't know how those New Testament laws are going to apply. And the dispensationalist is in a dilemma because they have in fact cut off the New Testament from the Old Testament, and again, they're not even consistent with that.